You've played their games. You've used apps they invested in. You might be on platforms they partially own right now. And there's a very good chance you have no idea they exist. The company is called Tencent. It's worth more than Facebook, more than Samsung, more than MasterCard. It owns Riot Games, the studio behind League of Legends. It owns 40% of Epic Games, the company behind Fortnite. It has stakes in Reddit, Discord, Spotify, Snapchat, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies across the world. Its payments platform processes more transactions per day than Visa and MasterCard combined. And if you asked most people in the West what Tencent does, you'd get a blank stare. But in China, where over 1 billion people use their app WeChat for an average of 4 hours every single day, the question is different. There, the question isn't what Tencent does, it's what Tencent doesn't do. So here's what this video is actually about. How did a company that started with $1,000 in the bank, in a tiny room with a disco ball on the ceiling, become one of the most powerful and least understood corporations on Earth? And why does its rise matter to you, even if you've never heard of it? The founder nobody knows. If you walked past Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg on the street, you'd probably recognize them. Walk past Tencent's founder and CEO and you almost certainly wouldn't. His name is Ma Huateng, known in English as Pony Ma, a nickname that's part translation, part self-deprecating joke. He runs one of the largest companies on Earth and has almost no public presence, no famous speeches, no controversial tweets, no product launch theatrics. This is entirely by design. Pony grew up as the quiet kid, barely noticed throughout school, except for one incident where he hacked into his university's computer systems. For his thesis, he built a stock forecasting software so useful that a company bought it from him for 3 times his annual salary. He graduated in 1993. The internet was in its earliest infancy and he began looking for ways to build something in it. He found his idea not by inventing something new, but by copying something that already existed. The $1,000 company in a room with a disco ball. The $1,000 company in a room with a disco ball. In 1998, Pony and 3 university friends launched Tencent in a rented office in Shenzhen. The neighborhood was loud, chaotic, and full of street vendors selling knockoff electronics. The office had a disco ball hanging from the ceiling. Their entire starting capital was around $1,000. Their product was OICQ, a near-exact clone of a Western messaging service called ICQ. They literally just added the letter O to the name. ICQ let 2 people chat online in real time, which was genuinely new. Tencent made it smaller, faster to download on China's slow connections, and added the ability for strangers to connect, not just existing contacts. Users loved it. OICQ hit 1 million users in its first year. Then a legal threat arrived from America. AOL, which owned the original ICQ, sent a legal threat accusing Tencent of IP theft. Tencent had no money for a lawsuit, so they rebranded. OICQ became QQ. The penguin stayed. Growth continued, but QQ had no revenue model. The more people used it, the more money they lost. If you're here for the stories behind the companies shaping the world right now, subscribe. We cover this kind of thing every week. The trick that saved everything. Pony tried banner ads, membership fees, selling the software to businesses. All failed. The membership fee backfired worst. Chinese users refused to pay, and competitors gained market share overnight. Then a Tencent employee stumbled across a Korean website where users customized digital avatars, changing their clothes, accessories, and style for small fees. Tencent copied it, launched it inside QQ, and watched it explode. For a fraction of a cent, users could dress their avatar in designer clothes. In a platform that had become a dating and socializing app for millions of young people, your avatar was your identity. Status symbol, first impression. Millions of microtransactions began flowing in every day. QQ crossed 100 million users. Tencent was finally making money. And Pony, to his own surprise, met his future wife through the platform, chatting anonymously for 3 months before they met in person. When she first messaged him, He told her he was Penguin Dad, a reference to the company mascot. She replied, "Then I'm Penguin Mom." They married 6 months after meeting. But just as things were looking up, a $100 billion American corporation decided to come for their market. The war with Microsoft and the everything changed moment. The war with Microsoft and the everything changed moment. In 2004, Microsoft launched MSN Messenger in China as a direct competitor to QQ. Microsoft had vastly more resources, a more polished product, and was rapidly gaining users in China's business and student communities. For Tencent, this was an existential threat. They survived it not by outspending Microsoft, but by outmoving them. While Microsoft's China team had to escalate every decision to the American headquarters, Tencent shipped new features in days. Offline messaging, faster local servers, constant small improvements that made QQ stickier and more essential. Microsoft lost focus on China, and Tencent devoured the market. By 2005, QQ had 500 million users. But Pony was already paranoid about the next threat, mobile. As smartphones took off, he knew a startup could displace QQ the same way QQ had displaced ICQ. He created 3 internal teams and made them compete against each other, including Tencent's own QQ, to build the best mobile chat app. The winner was WeChat. Launched in 2011, it hit 100 million users in 433 days, faster than any social platform in history. Facebook had taken 5 years. But WeChat was never going to stay a chat app. This was just the entry point. The app that became an operating system. Within WeChat, Tencent built a social feed, payments, ride-hailing, food delivery, news, games. Then in 2017, they launched mini programs, allowing thousands of external businesses to run inside WeChat, bypassing the App Store entirely. Today, WeChat is effectively the operating system of China. You call your family through it, pay your rent through it, book your taxi, order your lunch, file your taxes, book a hospital appointment, play games, watch videos. Imagine if Facebook, PayPal, Google, Uber, Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon were all on one app. That is WeChat, and over 500 million people use it daily. Because WeChat controls all those transactions, Tencent doesn't need to rely on advertising the way Western tech giants do. They make money on every interaction. Tiny fees on 1 billion daily payments add up faster than any ad network ever could. But there is a darker side to the Everything app, and it changes the story entirely. The surveillance machine. Amnesty International rated every major messaging app on its treatment of user data. Tencent scored 0 out of 100, the only company to do so. Not a low score, 0. WeChat doesn't just collect data, it shares it. The Chinese government has confirmed it can access deleted WeChat conversations without a court order and without notifying users. Private messages are scanned in real time for banned phrases. Group chat administrators are personally legally liable for anything said in their groups, which caused millions of groups to be deleted overnight when the policy launched in 2017. Citizens have been arrested for private jokes. Bloggers with hundreds of thousands of followers have had accounts deleted without warning for a single off-message post. The line between where Tencent ends and the Chinese Communist Party begins is deliberately blurred. The CCP reportedly has a direct line to Tencent product managers, can order content deletions at will, and has thousands of party members embedded within the company. Tencent feeds data into China's social credit system, payment history, location, social connections, allowing the government to score citizens on trustworthiness. This is why WeChat never conquered the world outside China. The same partnership with the CCP that allowed Tencent to grow without regulation in China made it toxic everywhere else. The global tentacles and the crackdown. Unable to expand WeChat globally, Tencent went on one of the largest investment shopping sprees in corporate history. 100% of Riot Games, 40% of Epic Games. Stakes in Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard, Snapchat, Discord, Reddit, Spotify, Tesla. Investments in hundreds of companies across dozens of countries. Tencent became the largest gaming company in the world, bigger than Nintendo and Sony combined. not by building games, but by owning the studios that built the games you already play. The strategy? Take minority stakes internationally, stay hands-off, let China's cash machine fund global expansion. When the Houston Rockets manager tweeted support for Hong Kong democracy protests in 2019, Tencent pulled Rockets coverage from its streaming platform. The manager deleted his tweet and apologized. Players publicly declared their love for China. A tweet had been suppressed not by a government but by corporate financial leverage. Multiple governments described WeChat as a surveillance weapon. The US attempted to ban it. India banned dozens of Chinese apps outright. And then came the hit Tencent never saw coming. From the one enemy it genuinely couldn't fight. In 2020, the Chinese government turned on its own tech giants. Tencent faced antitrust investigations, billion-dollar fines, and a freeze on new game approvals lasting over a year. Their most popular shooter was forced to replace deaths with characters waving goodbye. Blood became green liquid. The game was renamed Game for Peace and filled with patriotic propaganda. Over $500 billion was wiped from Tencent's market cap, more than half its peak value. Pony Ma became even harder to find. He missed his own company's annual party. The lesson and why it matters to you. Here's the thing about Tencent that makes it genuinely unlike any other company story. It started with $1,000, a copied product, and a disco ball on the ceiling. Survived bankruptcy, legal threats, direct competition from Microsoft. Built the most used app in internet history. Assembled a global portfolio touching gaming, music, payments, social media, and cloud computing across every major economy. And then the government that enabled its rise turned around and reminded it who was actually in charge. The surveillance capability that made WeChat valuable to the CCP is the same capability that makes it unusable everywhere else. The monopolistic freedom that let Tencent dominate China is the same freedom that made it a target for antitrust action. Tencent became so intertwined with state power, it can no longer tell where its interests end and the government's begin. Every Riot game, every Fortnite match, every Discord message, Reddit post, Spotify stream. Somewhere in the background, Tencent is involved. A company most people can't name, built by a man most people have never seen, operating behind the scenes of products you use every day. That is what a trillion-dollar shadow looks like. If you enjoy stories about the companies and systems shaping the world behind the scenes, subscribe. We have a lot more coming.